All right. We are pumped to have on the Endless Hustle podcast today, Fox Sports NFL insider, mixed martial artist, and Mr. Unbreakable himself, Jay Glazer. Jay, thanks for making the time.
Absolutely, man. How you doing?
Doing well. I was just showing Jay. I got the Unbreakable shirt on right now. I got all the pre-workout. I got the amino. I got the whey. And we talked to Ryan Leaf last week, and he was rocking the Unbreakable swag, and he was saying how hard he was hitting it. He was using this product, I believe, and he was glowing. He was saying his energy is off the roof, his mental health is off the roof. So whatever you're putting in this, it's got to make me bigger, stronger, and sexier, guaranteed.
Well, the cool part was, look, I don't want to just put my name on something. And for us, we've trained over 1,000 NFL players in MMA and a lot of fighters and whatnot. So what we put in their body has got to be great. It's got to be clean. But, we always talk about how we build you up from the inside out at Unbreakable. And, that's, putting in your pre-workout, your pre-cover and your recover, but also we try and build you up here and here. That's what we're talking about, the inside out. So I actually had a hand in all of it. Like, I tasted everything. When we first met with GNC, I was like, there was a couple of them like, I don't like this. I want to make sure we're different. Everything we do, it's different. And we kept going back to the drawing board. And, so we did this together. We were hand in hand. We were walking the walk together. I'm proud of it, man. I'm really proud of it.
The first place that I want to start is you've become part of that elite group of journalists. It's you, it's Woj, it's Shams. You guys are the guys that have become the face of each sport for getting inside information. How the heck do you become that guy? Where does it begin? And when do you realize I am going to be that guy?
Well, I was that guy before those guys were those guys. I was the first one to do it day by day. When that whole internet thing came out, I think it's going to catch on, actually. I'm telling you. But, man, I started in 1999. It took me, 10 years in my career. First 10 years of my career, I was making $9,450 a year. And I'm grinding in New York City. And, man, that's how, I was covering the Giants. And I walked in that Giant locker room literally the first day. And I looked around and I said, oh, my God, I don't have the experience these guys. I don't have the education these guys. How could I be different? And what I do have over everybody else is work ethic and loyalty. And so I said, man, if these guys are going to work 9 to 5, well, then my ass will be there from 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. I will outwork the world, and not by a little, by a lot. And, I'll be the last dude in here standing. And that's how I kind of, built my career. But eventually, in 99, I got my first full-time job for CBS. And with that also came, I kind of looked at it and said, man, I'm on Sundays, and I was working the New York Post before that. And I was only writing, once a week. But I figured out, man, we can kind of start breaking news minute by minute and not have to wait the next day. And back then, at first, there was a lot of pushback from the other reporters because all of a sudden they file something at 6 o'clock. They think they have a big breaking news item. And then all of a sudden I break it at 9 o'clock that night, boom. And, there's some crazy ones I came out of the gates with back then too. That's how I built my name up. And then back then it was me versus a guy named Len Pasquarelli. And, Mort was doing a little on the internet, not much, and Clayton a little bit. But it was me versus him for the most part. And then it became me versus 4 guys at ESPN, then 5 guys at ESPN, then 8 guys at ESPN, then 10 guys and gals at ESPN. And then all of a sudden, Schefter's at NFL Network. So you got people over there, and then this place and that place. And and it became this whole, new business. Like before us, there was no crawl at the bottom of your screen, trying to, break news. And so the reason why I've been able to have the staying power, though, is because if I put something out, you can take it to the bank. I want to make sure I'm right more than I'm first. And unfortunately, too many others in this business want to be first and don't care about being right as much as they are first. I want to know that if I say something that's so outlandish, like, look, this past week I came on the air and I said, hey, Carson Wentz is on a short leash, and and it's because he's lost confidence when them having Jalen Hurts come in. And, it wasn't so, let's say, at a left field, but I put a timetable up, short leash for that game. And, right then and there, people knew if I said it, they could take something like that to the bank. And that's where the staying powers come. But also the other thing is, I decided long ago I would never go for the scoop. I would work for the relationship. And that's totally different. So I'm never going to burn somebody just so I can have a story that day because it's short-sighted.
Do you find that's hard to do given like the 24/7 content machine? I know you were one of the guys who kind of helped pave the way for this. Now it seems like every publication wants a guy like you on their payroll. But do you find it hard to kind of hold up your end of the bargain with the player while also doing your job as a reporter given the change in the landscape?
I established this early, and it's hard. And when Adam first got to ESPN, his first day there, I broke the news that Brett Favre was going to come out of retirement and sign with the Vikings, which seems so outlandish. And, Adam came on, and I think he talked to Favre's agent, was denying it, and he started denying it. I said, listen, man, there's going to be so much pressure. And I talked to Ian Rappaport when he got this job. There's going to be so much pressure on y'all to keep up with me or more or something like that. Don't cave to it. So at Fox, I was lucky because when all this stuff was going on with Favre the year before that, and they were literally, it was like every day the reports on Brett Favre was putting his pants leg on with the right foot today. Brett Favre was taking his shirt off today. Yeah. Brett Favre breathed today. And I kept telling our guys at Fox who kept saying, hey, ESPN reported this. NFL Network, I don't care. Guys, when there's a grand slam to be hit, I'll hit it. Otherwise leave me alone. Like, I will come up big for you. Now, I bet on myself, right? So if I didn't do that, if I didn't, and I ended up, that year broke the story that Favre got traded to the Jets when everybody thought he was going to Tampa. Or like when the NFL lockout was happening, I told our guys at Fox, listen, I'm not reporting on every jab thrown in the fight. But when there's a knockout, I'll be the first one to have it. Again, I bet on myself. And I also said, these guys are going to be at the courthouse steps all day long. I enjoy my life too much. I'll be in Cabo and Vegas while they're doing that. But when the lockout ends, I'll be the first one to tell you. And again, I had confidence I could bet on myself because of my relationships that I built. And then sure enough, at 3:52 a.m. that morning, I get word and I break the news that the lockout ended. I had never stepped foot on the courthouse steps like everybody else. But you've got to be enough confidence in yourself to stand up to the pressure. Your editors and your producers, it's nonstop pressure. And I remember having this talk with Ian Rappaport when he first got the job. And I kind of got on him about, some of the stuff he was doing. And he said, you just don't understand the pressure they put on me with you and Adam. I said, no, I get it. I understand. But I told you about this beforehand. There's enough scoops to go around. We all don't have to steal each other's crap. And I told this to Adam. I've told that to him. I used to kind of get after ESPN about stealing everybody's stuff. They changed the way that they credited people because of how much I was calling them out. And it was funny because back then, people used to think I used to get so angry with ESPN stealing all my stuff. I never did. I just thought it was a good brand for me. I thought it was a good fight, like it's David versus Goliath. Yeah. I just like to fight. So I'm like, I'm picking a fight with the big bad boys in the street. Why not? I never really got mad. I just thought it was good. I would tell these guys, like, there's enough scoops for us to go around, right? And you don't have to just take it when we all have it. We all got to get paid. We have to, we're all kind of in this together. But also, man, make sure you get your stuff right. Like, make sure you got it right. I have a 3-source rule. Me personally, like when I broke the Des Bryant story the other day on our pregame show, but I had it for 40 minutes beforehand. And it's, man, and even that, it's hard to get people to call you back when they're on the field, obviously. They've got their cell phones there. I had to get 3 sources to confirm this for me before I actually went with it, that he had an inconclusive test. They were pulling him. Now he's positive. They're sending him home. There's definitely a lot of pressure there. But, man, just be authentic. Be authentic. Be true to your values in this, and I always have been.
You talk about relationships, and even though it's not your sport, Kyrie Irving announced that he's not going to be talking to any press during the season, and then it just came out that he said, I don't talk to pawns, pretty much saying that the press is pawns. As someone who's built his whole career off relationships, what are your thoughts?
Well, I used to have a lot of my guys say the same stuff, and I would love it. I built my career really on talking to guys like that who wouldn't talk to anybody else. I remember there's one year Urlacher wouldn't talk to the media, but said, I'll do a blog with you or whatever. I think it was a blog. And he's like, I'll do it with you on foxsports.com. And after the game, everybody came to him and they said, I'm not talking to you guys. Read my comments on foxsports.com. And he kept doing it over and over and over. And the league office called me and said, Brian can't do that. I said, what are you talking to me for? I'm talking to Brian about it. I got nothing to do with this. And they're like, no. And then the Bears, can you talk him how to do this? I said, whatever happened in there, he felt burned. I can't tell him not to feel burned. And this is my relationship that I have with somebody. So you guys are asking me to give him my relationship. to help out people that he feels burned him. If I was covering Kyrie Irving and he called me a pawn, I wouldn't take too kindly to it, and I'm sure we'd have a conversation. Again, I'm a little different in that way.
Do you reach out in that situation? Do you privately reach out and say, Kyrie, listen, I'm going to be the good dude in this situation. Let me be the guy?
No, if he was talking about me, I would call him up and, man, who the hell are you talking to? I'm not afraid of conflict and confrontation. So I would, in that way. Now, I have, in times, I have talked to some players and coaches who I see they're kind of going off the reservation, and I've called them, hey. And I've actually told them, dude, you're not going to win this. You're not going to win this. And it's going to get in your head. Just be nice to them. You don't want to be thinking about that fight when you got a fight on the field that you got to deal with. So I have tried to facilitate that sometimes also.
I know several months back there was those reports that you made those comments about fitness and Big Ben were allergic to each other. He admitted that he wasn't too happy about that.
Yeah.
When a player gets annoyed with something like that, is it like a burned bridge? Is it one strike you're out? How thin is that?
We talked the next day, and I was literally like, dude, are you kidding me? With much worse language. I'm like, when did you get so freaking sensitive, dude? He goes, well, people think that I'm not taking my workout seriously. I said, who said you're not my rehab seriously? I said, I didn't say that. So what happened was, when I did that, I was making a joke about Ben, because that's what I do, right? And Ben and I have gotten after each other. So Ben and I just joke around. I was making a joke about Ben. And, all of a sudden I go, I'm asleep. I wake up the next day and I get a call from his agent first, who I'm friends with. And because his agent was one we got lined up with Nate Boyer to represent Nate, who's my co-founder at MVP, and really good guys, the Tolner brothers. And they call and they're like, hey man, Ben's upset. I go, oh, what happened? So it's just about your comments. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I had no idea what they were talking about, because my thing was a joke. And he's like, just how he's not taking his rehab seriously. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? I honestly don't know what you're talking about. And mine was in a mailbag. It wasn't like I wrote a story. It was in a mailbag where some of them are football questions, some of them are fight, some of them are mental health questions, some of them are about MVP, whatever. I just talk, So all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? Tell Ben tell him to shut up, and I'll call me or I'll call him. So I call him, I leave a message that said, hey, it's your yoga instructor. And, Jay Glazer called, give me a call. So then he calls back. But again, that's like one thing I'll say. If I'm wrong with something, the power to say, hey, man, I'm sorry is a really good thing. But this was just misconstrued. So I said to him, hey, dude, you got to be kidding me that you're all getting all moist about this. And he said, no, it's just people think I'm not taking my rehab seriously. I said, well, I didn't say that. I was joking around with you. Clearly, I was joking around. And he said, I know, but people don't think. I'm like, I hear you on that, and that's wrong, so I'll correct that for you. And I did, and I put that out. Correct. I said, but Ben, don't worry about what people are thinking, because if you're taking and he's like, Jay, look, I know I've never been a workout guy. I know, like you were joking, what you're saying, because we always mess with him about it. He said, but this time I am. It's like the first time I'm really throwing myself in. I said, okay, well, by the time people see that, nobody's going to think you didn't take your workouts, your training seriously, or your rehab seriously, because you're going to come back and kill it. He's like, oh, that's right. And he goes, just the fact that you called me and to clear it up meant a lot. And I'm like, I didn't call you to clear it up. I called to bust your chops about it, but I'm glad. But okay. But that's, again, man, like, listen, dude, we don't cover the Middle East. We're not covering things that matter. We're covering escapism, football, sports, and they matter in a way that we're escapism. And that's it. And if you don't take yourself too seriously, you'll go a lot longer in this business.
You got to know that Big Ben is a little sensitive about his weight, though. He's got to see all the memes. We talked to Ike Taylor, and he said he sees all of it.
No, he literally, this is the first time. Listen, that was true what I said. Like, an off-season workout program for him that was good was, drinking beer, playing golf, and a hot yoga session. It wasn't too far off in the past, but this off-season, he put his everything into that rehab. And you've seen it. But it also makes you go, man, imagine if, well, you know what? I would say imagine if he worked out what he could have been. But listen, whatever he's done has worked. The guy's a Hall of Famer, and he's been, we've already seen Eli retire. And, Rivers had a bad year last year. Ben never has. And he's just, sometimes you just don't want to mess with what works for guys. I mean, look, I covered Lawrence Taylor, and guys used to say, man, imagine if he could have worked out. But I don't know. Could you have gotten better? I don't know.
You mentioned LT. I grew up a Giants fan, and the reason I became a Giants fan was because I met LT as a kid, and I'm like, this is my hero.
And you still became a Giant fan? He was nice to you?
He was actually awesome, and he was like superhuman, but
He's probably doped up.
that's what I was going to ask you. LT, when you think about great athletes who were just fucking train wrecks behind the scenes and could still perform, it was LT. As you're reporting or as you get to hear these stories, are there times where you're like, man, I wish I could talk about LT just like blowing lines off someone somewhere?
I only covered him for 1 year. So I didn't see any of that. Listen, to this day, he's the only athlete I've ever been around my entire life. When he walks into a room, you're like, whoa, something's different about him. This aura, this something. The very first day I met, it's like if Martians came down and there was 1 million people in a room, they'd be able to pick him out. He's different. It's the only guy I've ever been around in my life covering this league that had that level of an aura about him. And it was incredible. And, I hear stories. Listen, I heard a lot of crazy stories, but I also heard, I think it's either Dick Vermeil or Joe Gibbs told me that one day they were playing a game and he had 4 different game plans in to stop Lawrence. And Lawrence got a sack against all 4 game plans. Like he had 4 different protections for him, and all four didn't work. He got a sack against every single one of them. And it was just like, there's nothing. We only had 4 going in. There's nothing else we could do.
Dude, how much fun did you have on Ballers? I loved that show, and I know you and The Rock became great friends, but how much fun was it to be part of that thing?
It was great because I'm not really an actor, so I don't really give a crap if I screw my lines up or not. And it was fantastic. And it was funny. They eventually told me that they had something called lines and glaze lines, or glaze scripts or glaze signs, whatever. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, you don't follow them anyway. So we just kind of have your own stuff. And yeah, it was great, man. It was so much fun. And it started with, it was only supposed to be 1 scene. But I think they saw how, Dwayne and I how much we just messed with each other. And they're like, this is great. And, I'd also say like, wait, like my very first day, they had something. I was doing a sit-down interview with John David Washington, right, as Ricky. And they had the script. And first of all, I've never followed a script for anything in my life. I don't really know how to. But I do think being in sports sets you up to be a great actor because you constantly have improv reps, right? So when I'm doing a show like this with you guys, I don't know what you guys are going to ask. It might be about something really heavy. It might be about something really fun like this. I have no idea. So you got to think on the fly, right? Or on Fox NFL Sunday, I don't know if we're going to talk about something. We're going to talk about social injustice or a guy getting pulled for COVID, or we're going to be making fun of Bradshaw. We get more improv reps than anybody else. So I think we're able to kind of adapt to that. But I'm sitting down there, and they have this script, and I think, the line was something like $50,000, and I said 50 grand in cash. And they're like, cut for some. And the script writer comes out and says to me, excuse me, Mr. Glazer, this is, are we allowed to curse on this or no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So she said, you said 50 grand in cash, it's $50,000. I turned to Dwayne and JD and I'm like, you guys fucking kidding me here? Really? Are you fucking kidding me? And they're like, just let him say it how he wants to say it. Just let him say it how he wants to say it. And then, after that, I would just be like, hey, I wouldn't say it like this. This is not who I am. I'd say it like this. Or what would you say? I'd say, fuck, dude. I would never say something like that. This is how I'd say it. So they started letting me do that. Then I think they realized they gave me way too much leeway.
Creative freedom.
Well, yeah, and there was episode season finale episode of season 2. They're like, hey, would you be okay doing a scene with Dwayne and you guys get in a fight in a strip club? Like you guys go off the rails and get in a fight in a strip club? And I was like, so you guys are asking me not to act? Like, it was, man, it was so much fun. But, being around Dwayne, I said Lawrence Taylor is the one guy that has an aura about him that's just different in the NFL. Dwayne's the other guy that I've met in my life like that. Probably him and Stallone. But just have this thing, man, like, wow. And, for Dwayne, what you appreciate about him, I appreciate his loyalty, as a friend. I came out with this GNC products here, obviously, And 2 weeks ago, he comes on my Instagram live show for 40 minutes. So he could talk about this. I could talk about tequila. We could talk about mental health as we're going into the holiday season to help people out. And, we're authentic with each other. We're able to really, I think for him, as he gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more perfect, I bring the locker room to him still. I still bring that dude quotient to him, which is what I do for everybody. Like you guys can see, I'm like, this is how I am.
I fucking love you, dude. Like I want to go do strip club fights with you too, man.
Let's fucking do it, dude. I'll wear my mask. Let's go. Spearmint Rhino.
The funny part is in that scene, that day they were talking about like a nudity clause in people's contracts, and you get extra if there's people have nudity clause or something like that. And so when there's me, Dwayne, Terrell Suggs, and Rob Kadri. They want us to go off the rails, with these girls. They give us a stack of bills and all this stuff. But, man, I don't know what these actresses' nudity clauses are. So I don't want to really go over everything and have, something slip out. And all of a sudden they're like, no, they got to pay them more. I don't know. This isn't my world. So all of a sudden, we go through a few takes and the producer comes out and he's like, hey, what are you guys doing? You're supposed to be like going crazy or like you're going off the rails. We're like, we don't know what their nudity clauses are for these actresses. We're like, actresses? These are real strippers. They're not actresses. You're good.
Incredible. Jay, you're not going to find anyone arguing against The Rock being the best human ever.
Oh my God. And he outholds the freaking world, man, like, because he's petrified to be broke again. That's what we talked about the other day. He's horrified of the days when he was broke that it can happen again tomorrow. It doesn't leave you. It never leaves you.
But there has to be one bad quality and you have to break it. Does he have like BO or does he clap when the plane lands? What is the one bad quality of The Rock? Just for my own sanity, because I already feel inferior.
I don't know. He'll take a day to get back to you if you call him. That's about it. Like, because he's so busy. I mean, he's great friend, beyond loyal. The problem is when you have guys like this as your friends, everybody calls you for stuff for them. Everybody calls me. There's not a week that goes past where somebody doesn't call me for something for Strahan. It's unreal how many people try to use me for him and for The Rock or for Stallone. It's offensive, really, and for stupid crap too. So, but sometimes somebody will call and say, well, a lot of times, hey, there's a sick child here. Huge fans of The Rock. In any way you can. And when I shoot Dwayne this, he shoots a video over immediately for this child who's fighting for their lives. Like, he takes what God has blessed him with and gives back, man. And that's what you got to do. You can't just take. God has given us this great life, man, and we got to give back and be of service to other people and pay it back, pay it forward, man. You got to.
You physically couldn't say a bad thing about him.
Dude, there's nothing to say.
The search goes on.
I'm trying to think. Listen, I would. No problem. I'd say, you kidding me?
Jesus Christ Johnson.
I'm always looking for something. Okay, the only thing I'm pissed about that he didn't run for president. Because I want to be like his vice president of stuff.
No, that would taint him.
Right, the secretary of stuff. Well, listen, I don't think anybody can really taint the presidency anymore. But I would be his vice president of stuff. Right
Jay, who was the biggest beast you got in your gym? Who was the guy who walked in and you were like, holy shit, this dude is just a monster?
Probably Kyle Long. Oh my God, Kyle Long, man, he's like freaking Sasquatch. And when he puts his hands on you, and he's so big. 6'8", 340 with boxing in his stomach. Andrew Whitworth also is just a monster. But man, the guy who had the strongest hand so far is Aldon Smith. Aldon, man, that sucked. And we were freaking quarantined together during this stuff, like training to get back in the NFL. Ended up tearing my labrum. I have this whole thing in Unbreakable, like we don't show it. If you are hurt or tired, you'll never know from me. Like, we don't show it. I always say neutral face, because you could break that guy across from you. Like, our fighters don't take a stool in between rounds. They sit there and they pace back and forth and wink and smile. And because I want that other person on the stool sitting there going, what's wrong with him? Why is Randy Couture not sitting down? Why is Jay Glazer not sitting down? Why is Aldon Smith? That's what we want. But you can get in somebody else's head, and you could break them from the inside out. Man, Aldon tore my labrum here, 2 rotator cuffs, and I had 2 bone spurs, 2 rotator cuff tears, 2 bone spurs, and I trained him for 5 months like that, and just never showed it. Man, I got the surgery 2 days before it started this season, and the thing was the MRI only showed a bone spur and a slight tear. So like, hey, you don't have to be asleep for this. We can do this nerve blocker and go. And I've had so much crap done because all the years of me training guys. I like the anesthesia. Let's put me out here. And then 3.5 hours later, I woke up and it turned out to have all that stuff. My labrum flapped and was stuck in the joint. And then I cut that piece out and do all this stuff. And I was on air 2 days later for Fox. The makeup girls and the wardrobe girls had to freaking dress me. Couldn't move my arms. They had to prop me up in this interview I did with Bruce Arians, and oh man, it was brutal. But Alden, man, when he puts his hands on you, it sucks. And I would say Myles Garrett, we trained them out in Cleveland for a month. Myles Garrett's hands are ridiculous.
Alden's one of those guys that is a prototypical super talent, but troubles off the field dude. When you get to spend extended time with him, how much, because I know you just recently talked about depression yourself and mental illness, how much do you get to really discuss helping him and getting him out of the hole that he was in?
That's what got us on this journey. He came into Unbreakable not to train as a football player, because that wouldn't happen. He came in for our MVP program, where we're taking, former veterans and former pro athletes who were retired, who were struggling in the transition, and we're merging them together to give a new team again. And that's what it's great with GNC is aligned with us. And literally what the program is, we'll have, at least for Unbreakable in LA, we're in 5 different cities. We'll take 80, 100 combat vets and ex-pro athletes together, train them together for about a half hour, just to give them that burn again. But then after we sit around these mats, we have what we call our huddle, and that's our mental health huddle. And we talk about everything. We talk about why you should be proud of your scars, why, you shouldn't look at it like, oh man, I used to play in the NFL. Like, no, dude, you played in the NFL, and you played in the NFL. That's not who you are. But what you got behind your ribcage that got you to beat out millions to get on that level, that's who the fuck you are. And same with our combat vets. Like, man, they go overseas and they do great things. They have grace under fire, courage under pressure. They're part of a team. They're a loyal member of a team. And they come back over here and they're like, oh, I'm different. We're like, no, motherfucker, you're different. Different is good. Different leads to success. But when you lose that tribe or team to remind you of that, it's a scary world out there. So when you put them together, and I know it's not the same job they did, they both look up to each other. And if you have these pro athletes looking up these combat vets going, you do what overseas? Oh my God, what, really? Man, like I tell all our combat vets, don't come back here and be facing the crowd. Be the freaking crowd. We're the crowd. Don't be a face in the crowd. Because you've done stuff the rest of us could look at and just marvel at. So I want us and all the athletes to look at them and remind them, when you're walking around the street, you walk in and mean it, look at everybody else in there and go, I'm not like the rest of you. I'm different, right? And the same right, these combat vets look up to all these athletes where they think that everybody doesn't love them anymore, the uniform comes off. And suddenly you got all the room of combat vets who are like marveling, wow, there's Alden Smith. And about a month or so in, Alden finally opened up and said, hey guys, my name's Alden Smith, and I played in the NFL for a while, and I was a great player, but I lost it all. And I lost it all, with alcohol. And alcohol wasn't the issue. It was a reason, it was what I used for the issue. But the issue was I never felt worthy of being loved. And I didn't have any self-value. And it wasn't until I met this group the first time I felt worthy of being loved. And that's when we started our journey. When he started opening up and becoming vulnerable, vulnerability is real strength. And he said to me, I wish I was able to kind of do something with my career back then so I could have helped a lot of players. I said, well, maybe it's not too late. And he goes, Jay, it's been 4 years. I said, Alden, I've done way crazier stuff in this league, man. If you can help it, you'll use this to help other players out. Let's go walk this walk together. I'll get you back in the league. And you'll be walking on that field with thousands of combat vets walking this walk with you. That's exactly what we did, man. I'm proud.
I'm a simple man, Jay. So if I had a time machine, I may go back to the Pro Bowl 2007 after a couple Mai Tais with you and Peyton. Can you bring us back to that? Can we be a fly on the wall of that situation?
It wasn't a couple Mai Tais. It was, I had about
36, wasn't it?
Well, it was John Lynch. It was 34. We were trying to break his Mai Tai record at the Pro Bowl, which he had 34 Mai Tais in Pro Bowl one year. And so me, Steve Hutchinson, Rondé Barber, Tiki Barber said, we're going to go try and break Mai Tai record. Yeah, we even I got the bartender open up early. And again, it goes back to the relationship too. I think I was the only reporter allowed to stay at the player hotel. And the Legos even looked at me that I was different, which was cool. And whether a coach got me a room or Strahan or Gonzalez or one of these cats, would always make sure I was good, golden, because the other hotel was all the way down in Waikiki. It was a hike, but I was there to build relationships and network. But I always had more in common with the players than I did my fellow reporters. And mind you, these guys were reporting. I only had 2 pro MMA fights, but it was in the early days when it was style versus style. And, Fox made me stop my first day of Fox. But I intended to do both the whole time. So I had a different mentality. I related to them more. So, and that's why I started coaching guys, because I couldn't stop doing it. Like, I fight because of my mental health. I need a fight team around me to quiet the roommates in my head, to get them to talk nicely to each other. And for me, who has a lot of anxiety issues and depression, the world is a scary place. And, people look at me sometimes, like Strahan used to joke, the Napoleon complex. I don't have the Napoleon complex. I have a depression complex. I always got to be a bigger personality because I have to overcompensate. Because I always feel so crappy about myself and so dark about myself. And, if we talk about all of them self-worth, I never had any self-worth. That led me into a cage. So anyway, you can see I also have ADD because I go, off track.
It's fascinating.
At that Pro Bowl. So we're sitting there, man, Tiki bailed out after like freaking 4 at like noon. We started at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 a.m. And then Hutch and our girls made a stop at 5 p.m. And we were like, well, you can't make a stop. We're going after. We called John Lynch 47 Red because when he starts drinking, 47 was his number, obviously, with the Bucks. 47 Red, he becomes a different cat. Otherwise, he's like the most Brooks Brothers wearing whitest dude on the planet, and then he becomes 47 Red. So we're like, we're breaking 47 Red's record. We're kind of looking like, how dare you take us away? And then we obviously, Steve Hutchinson and I lost out on that argument. But then Rondé kept going. So then we're up in the Hakalua Lounge after, and I'm waiting for Chuck Liddell to meet me. He just wanted to come hang out. He's like, you in Pro Bowl? Yeah. Can you get me in? Yeah. All right. This one, I think Chuck was still champ. But he and I were kind of really running wild back then. And, it was before like the MMA boom really happened. People knew who he was, but just starting. It was like right after the Ultimate Fighter 1 or 2 when he knocked out Randy, and and those two are my best friends in this business. So Peyton and I kind of get into it up there. Yeah, we're drinking, we get into it. And finally I just kind of snapped on him, and I won't tell you what we said, but we kind of got a couple of them pulled me away from him, and it was like Eddie George, Lorenzo Neal, Sean Payton, all trying to pull me away from him. And but his buddy jumped in for him, right? Well, my buddy jumped in for me, and again, my buddy was Chuck Liddell. So all of a sudden, his friend was like, "Whoop!" Walked over here, and then Peyton's like, "Oh my God!" And I'm just kind of a pit bull, and I'm getting it. It was just And then it turned out it happened because Peyton thought Strahan was talking. The whole thing started because he started talking about Strahan, and man, that's my brother. So I can say what I want about him, but I'll be damned if somebody else talks about him like that. So he kept getting after Michael. And I was like, what'd you say about him? And it kind of started with that. And that's, I said to him, hey, what, how about you never mention Michael Strahan's name out of your mouth again? Or something like that. And he was like, what? And then we started, the FU started flying, and then, lobbed some threats. And again, they pulled me off him or pulled me away back from him. I didn't physically jump him. And then it was funny because the people that were there were like, listen, you were standing up for who you thought was your brother. We have no problem with this. We have no issue. But it turns out Peyton was standing up for his real brother. And he thought Michael was ripping Eli, which he probably was. And so he was standing up for his own brother. So I respect Peyton for him doing that. So he's like, okay, the closest thing I know to Michael is Jay, so I'm going to get after him as well. And I just did a show with Cooper Manning at a military base here for Fox. And I told him the whole story because he actually hadn't heard it. And Peyton's version is funny now too, because Peyton's version is like, Chuck threw a kick at his head. Like, Chuck didn't throw a kick at your head. None of that had happened. No. But it was a pretty classic story, man.
Was there a story, Jay, that you got, that you sat on, that you ended up not reporting, that you wish you had reported?
No, the only things is like things that I knew, and I wait for a third source, and then somebody breaks it. You know, those kind of drive me crazy. But it's, again, I've got to stick to my guns who I have. And the other thing is because my main job is Fox NFL Sunday. People get pissed. Like, I don't work for Twitter, dude. I work for Fox, right? So my job is to wait for stuff, to hold stuff for my shows. That's my job. And, you know, always has been. And, you know, it's changed. I used to write for foxsports.com. Now I don't. And I used to break news daily. I don't anymore. Thank God Almighty I've been able to move up from doing that. Again, I did that every day, constantly. And, man, it's ruined every relationship I've ever had in my life with women. So at some point I had a, you know, failed marriage, and I had to, kind of do the bigger stuff. And thank God I've been able to move up to where I am now at Fox, where I think, you know, you wait for what I'm going to say on Sundays because you know you can take it to the bank. And I'm going to have a few big things a year. You're going to go, oh man, where did this come from? This is outlandish. But you're going to have more insight from me than anybody else. And I may not break as many, because the thing, when you break news now, again, everybody just steals it from you 2 seconds later. So I think it's more valuable now to have more insight than you could find anywhere else. So again, if we're going to talk about Carson Wentz last week, I'm the only one who said that, yeah, he's lost confidence because they went and drafted Jalen Hurts. And she had an angle that no one had heard before until I came on the other day.
I'm a New England guy, and I know you just had reported about Cam Newton's rib injury.
Well, his ab.
Ab injury, yeah. So is that as serious? Because he's been looking.
Yeah, it's definitely affected him. You could tell. I mean, they were saying it didn't, but I know he's been in pain. When you're in pain, when that whole position is core, you got to think that it's – now, Bradshaw brought up a great point last night because he said his throwing motion's been off. I don't know if that caused that, right? Or if the ab has caused the throwing motion. But he said, I've never seen a guy just kind of lean back and throw it. And man, Terry would know.
He threw one right into the ground, last night. It was ridiculous.
Jay, I'm always fascinated when people discover fame. Fame can change you for good and for bad. When people started recognizing you, women are hitting on you, people want favors. What was kind of the coolest thing that ended up happening where you're like, holy shit, I'm actually famous now?
I was at the Emmys and through Fox, and I'm in the bathroom. They have like a bathroom, private bathroom. It's in the Emmys. And a bunch of famous actors walk in the bathroom, and they're like, it's Jay Glazer. Hey, I got this guy on my fantasy team. I got that, and like huge stars. I got the had Jason Witten do today. What happened this year? And I'm literally, I'm taking a piss, and they're coming over there, and I was like, this is unbelievable. Normally, I don't want to talk to another dude when I'm holding my own stuff. This is different. And that was wild. And we are on the field at the NFC Championship game years ago. Atlanta, it must have been Atlanta against the 49ers. Usher really wanted to come to the game. And I said, years ago, he said, if it's ever in Atlanta, I want to come. And I said, you can come, but you got to kind of be my little stoolie. And we were like, okay, we're joking around. But again, I'm always trying to mess with people. And he all of a sudden, it happens. I'm like, hey, remember what he said? You got to hold my pre-workout drink. You got, which I'll have on the field. You got to hold my pad. You got to hold this. You got to hold that. And I just started loading them up. And I would actually sit there on the field. I'd like put my drink over here, and I'd be like, and make him go. But at the same time, Samuel L. Jackson walks over and says, hey, man, big fan of what you've done here. I said, hey, I appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much. I'm glad me and the guys have a great time. He goes, no, I'm talking about Ballers. You do a great job on that show. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. Is this really happening? Like, is this really happening? And, yeah, that but I tell you a thing about, I don't know if I want to say fame, because I don't think I like to use that word with me.
Recognizability.
Recognizability is, man, at one point I went from wanting to be the guy in the middle of the bar to the guy now hiding in the back of the bar. I found out that I don't like it. That, like, I get this anxiety, but I also think a lot of it is because of Twitter. People don't have any boundaries anymore. they tend to say shit to you, the same things that they would tweet at you. And when you're with me in person, yeah, I kind of revert back to old Jay too much. I've had a couple incidents where it's just not, I try to protect myself by keeping myself out of those situations. Some dude comes up and he says some bullshit to you, like, before I was Jay Glazer, I would handle it completely different. And you wouldn't, like, but why would you ever say that to somebody? Why would you come up and say something and go, oh, you're that asshole, the Spygate video. Yeah, you're a douchebag. Like, really, dude? You gonna say that? Man, you're not in your mom's basement right now. You're right here in front of me. So I'm started really struggling with those, and I think people think they could say things the same way they tweet. And listen, people also think when you have fame or recognizability that shit doesn't hurt you, and it does. Like, man, I don't like to be hated. I don't like to hear. The human soul is not made for that. And just because now I have more money than I did back then doesn't mean my heart's any different. And I'm sure people hear this and go, oh, wah, listen to the guy, hey, fuck you. That's not how it is, right? All our problems weigh the same. And when a lot of us have, the reason why I'm so successful is because I do have mental health shit. That got me to get here. My wallet isn't an antidepressant. It suddenly doesn't just go away. So when you see and hear and read this stuff, yeah, it definitely gets to us in a certain way. But if I see you in public and you say it, I'm going to want to snatch you, no doubt. You should not ever say something to someone you would not be willing to say to them alone behind 7-Eleven. That should be your bro code forever. That's it.
How about outkicking your coverage? And you don't have to name who, but was there ever a situation where you're like, Jersey Jay isn't getting the number here?
No, Jersey Jay always did though, because Jersey Jay I had no fear of it. Like, I'll swing away. I had never, ever. No, I've done well. Yeah, well, I've done really well with that. And thank God, because I have no fear. And I got confidence. I can make somebody laugh. I haven't gotten an uptick because of that. Back then, when I had no money and Strahan was driving me into the city every day, my living girlfriend was one of the top 5 black supermodels in the world. She was a tall black girl with an afro named Aisha Kane. She was the Evian Angel. And we'd walk and she'd come to me to places and people look like, how? What? How? I remember I met her. I was out with Strahan. We met her out one night, and man, I was just on. And all of a sudden, she turns around and she's like, hey, I really like you. We should go out Friday night. And I'm like, great. And then we keep talking, and she goes, yeah, what are you doing Saturday night? So eventually I turned to Strahan and I said, hey, man, we got to go. She goes, why? I said, we got to go. I said, why? I said, Evian Angel just asked me out for 2 dates. When a fighter wins a 12-round decision on the scorecards, he don't ask for 3 more rounds. We got to go. I can't do anything but screw this up.
Oh, my God. It's that drip. It's that charisma, man. You can't teach that.
It's just bad. And my current girlfriend, who is wonderful, she's amazing. She's beautiful. A woman named Rosie Tennyson. She and her sister, the Tennyson twins. Her sister was the first Black Playmate of the Year, and then the two of them posed together in Playboy a long time ago, and kind of in Cuba when it wasn't allowed. And Hugh Hefner got in trouble for sending them over. She modeled for 15 years for Frederick to Hollywood. The Price is Right, did a bunch, but then she left to go start a clothing business called Vargas Store. And she's had 15 stores in 15 years, really successful businesswoman. She's the one I probably outkick my coverage the most with. She's right out. She's awesome. Look her up.
I will. You said Playboy, and I'm going to look her up.
VargasStore.com. Look it up.
All
Great
right, we'll do.
clothing.
Everybody at home, look up as well.
To go from a model to a businesswoman and a successful businesswoman for 15 years in this town is really, really hard. That's what I'm most impressed with her.
Jay, we're going to get you out in a bit here, but you mentioned Michael Strahan. Obviously, he was your introduction into the NFL world before he was really Michael Strahan. And then you ultimately presented him at the Hall of Fame ceremony. Was there a specific time early on in Michael's career where you realized that he was a special personality that would be worth hitching your wagon to?
Yeah. Well, listen, he wasn't a good player for the first 4 years of his career. And all of a sudden, you hear my assistant talking again.
Dude.
Hey, Nick, I'm still on.
I can be there tomorrow.
Oh, my God.
I mean, honestly, after this conversation, I'm fucking working for free if you want me to.
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's twice now. So it's unreal. So I can't make it up, man. I'm sorry. So first 4 years of his career, early on, he really struggled. And it wasn't until it was either Deacon Jones or Howie Long had to talk with him, say, you don't play football, you fight. And you wage war against here and here and here and here and here. And man, that's my whole mindset, right? When we train these players, you make it where they go on that football field, get cage door locks. And you better get that guy across from you to beg to get out of that cage with you. Like for me, I'm not a good fighter, but I'll tell you what, you're training with me, it's going to suck for you. You're good chance you're going to win, but afterwards you're going to go, man, that sucked. And that's what I care about. And same with these guys. It's a constant. You got to be a torrential downpour of violence out there. And it changed Michael. He went out and got 15 sacks, and it changed everything. And it was great because I got a great exposure to all of a sudden, got a big contract, and he and I used to go to the same places. And for years, no one talked to us. All of a sudden, he gets this big contract, and all of a sudden, people start coming to our dinner table, offering jeans company after jeans company to invest in record label after record label, ostrich farms, strawberry picking field, dead serious. And I would be the heavy. I'd be the guy like, hey, does this look like our office to you? Like, you guys didn't say anything the last 3 years. Now you see him get on TV. We're trying to have a dinner over here because I wanted him to look good because I was broke, so it didn't matter. I was able to use those same experiences when Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture and Rashad Evans and all my guys in that sport started becoming something. Because when I was friends with it, they were making nothing. And all of a sudden they went to becoming famous. And I was able to do the same thing of the vultures that come out when you make it. But the thing that people don't realize, how much Michael and I worked at this, man, I was on New York One TV. He wasn't playing. And he and I would go get these speaking engagements to work at it. We gave a speaking engagement at a synagogue in Long Island one time. There wasn't, everybody in that room was a cough away from a heart attack. There wasn't anybody in there, under freaking 78, 80, 85 years of age. And he killed it, absolutely killed it. And that's the day I was like, wow, he can roll with anything. He takes over every room. He's special.
Who's the MMA GOAT in your opinion?
Best I've ever seen is John Jones. That's the best I've ever seen. He's just so creative. He's hard to train for. He's so freaking strong, dude. He's the best I've ever seen.
This was awesome, man.
Yeah. All right, Jay. We're heading up on an hour here. I feel like I could go another 2 days.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. No, thanks a lot so much. And Unbreakable, go get it at GNC. It's the cleaner substances, not that other shit. So go get it at GNC.
Absolutely.
Jay Glazer, thank you so
I
much.
believe in it. I trust it, man. And plus, a portion of the proceeds goes to help building up our MVP charity. So please comment. And we're trying to get people to understand we want to really look and feel great from the inside out. We're trying to have a whole movement here. Be proud of your scars. Be proud of your imperfections. Let's go walk this walk together.
Fuck yeah, let's do it. Thank you.
Jay, you're the man. Thanks so much for a great time, man.
Okay, guys.
See you, man.
We'll go fire my assistant.